You are watching Nimasa this week, the authorized voice for the Nigerian maritime sector. My name is Iresiola Doyle and you are welcome. Now, the International Ship and Port Facility Security Code, otherwise known as the ISPS Code, is still on the front burner. Our first features on this subject as prepared by our production consultant, Mr. Patrick Doyle.
The International Ship and Port Facility Security Code, more popularly referred to as the ISPS Code, came about after the tragic events of the 11th of September 2011 in the United States. The terror attacks attracted an unprecedented global response that saw practically every nation and global institution re-evaluating their security protocols to cope with potential cataclysmic terror attacks. Like any other responsible international organization, the International Maritime Organization (IMO) immediately activated a security protocol review. The IMO's Maritime Security Group and the Maritime Safety Committee went to work and produced the ISPS Code to combat and prevent acts of terrorism which could threaten the security and safety of passengers, crews, and ships, as well as vital maritime infrastructure. The draft of the code was presented to the 2002 Conference of Contracting Governments to the International Convention for Safety of Life at Sea 1974, also known as SOLAS 1974, and was formally adopted as a code on the 12th of December 2002. The main objective of the ISPS Code is to foster an international platform for cooperation amongst contracting governments, government agencies, local administrations, and the shipping and port industries to access and tackle security threats to ships and port facilities. Nigeria, as a member of the International Maritime Organization and one of the contracting governments to the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, SOLAS 1974, signed on to the code. Upon signing on to the code, the Nigerian government set up a committee to implement the ISPS Code regime, as well as to meet the July 2003 deadline for compliance by nations. However, in December 2012, Nimasa was named as the official designated authority to superintend the implementation of the code in Nigeria. Captain Bala Agaba, the Executive Director of Maritime Safety and Shipping Development at Nimasa, gave a backstory of Nigeria's involvement with the code.
The IMO now came together and said, look, why don't we put a security code in place that guards the ports and ships? That's where the name came of, ISPS, International Ships and Ports Security Code. And the identity, if you don't sign on, vessels will not be coming to your country, and even if they do, they will not be allowed to enter the other countries. Like if a vessel comes to Nigeria and it loads cargo and is supposed to go into America, America is okay, look, if you are not part of the ISPS, we won't allow you into our country. So it's not particular to US, could happen to the UK, Belgium, Netherlands. So as you are aware, when conventions or protocols are brought up in the IMO, a particular number of countries, when they sign on to it, becomes mandatory for others to obey. So whether you sign on or not, it doesn't matter, you still be affected.
This development appears to have met with the universal approval of critical stakeholders in the maritime industry, people like Chief Isaac Jolakpama of ISEN, as well as Engineer Emmanuel Ilori.
Well, I would say that my association has been at the forefront of rejecting the PICOMs since they wanted, they transformed themselves into an authority which rests solely on Nimasa. So it's just, to us, winning a battle.
And government needs to be actually thanked for making sure that it's now designated within its proper environment. That's the maritime administration of the nation state. That's Nimasa. That is where it should be, because it's statutory compliance for our maritime industry.
Nimasa, as a responsible agency, upon being so designated, decided to carry out a review of the level of compliance of the ISPS Code within the Nigerian jurisdiction.
Naturally, if you take over an operations, it's good for you to go on the ground, look at what has been going on, and look for improvements, deficiencies. Exactly, that's what we are trying to do now. the designated authority has moved to a different body. So it's natural for the body to form the database, check what is on the ground, improvements, if there are deficiencies, correct them, and that's exactly what we are trying to do.
Engineer Emmanuel Ilori, a respected maritime consultant, underscores the importance of verification of compliance to the code.
Compliance and verification is very, very essential because port state control or the port state needs to make sure that actually there is verification of that compliance. So Nimasa is on the right track, and I'm sure they have what it takes to make sure it succeeds. That's where we start from now.
Nimasa, as the newly designated authority of the ISPS code in Nigeria, organized a general stakeholders conference in Lagos recently with the aim of acquainting stakeholders of the new developments and at the same time put them on notice about a review of all port facilities' level of compliance. We asked Captain Bala Agaba, who doubles as the chairman of the ISPS Code Implementation Committee, ICIC, when the current review exercise will be over.
Facility review or assessment for any facility is an ongoing issue. If you repair a fence today, in another 1-2 years, the fence might come down. So that's what we are trying to do. So it's not that, okay, today, we'll finish with our ISP's activities and we'll go to sleep. It's going to be a continuous activity. So there's no time limit for stopping the process. But we'll get to a position that we'll be comfortable, say, look, we are okay, anybody can at any time come to us and say, okay, let's go for an assessment, and we'll be comfortable with it. So we are looking at, I think about August, September, we should be a bit comfortable to say we are getting there. But as I said, assessment and of port facilities is an ongoing issue.
Stakeholders are more than likely to lend themselves to a regime of continuous assessment of their level of compliance because of the potentially dire consequences of non-compliance. Chief Isaac Jolakbamo and Mr. Leke Oyewole, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Maritime Affairs, underscore this point.
Ships coming to Nigeria, the few ones that will be ready to bring goods to Nigeria, they bring it at their prices. It can be times 10 of the price that would have come to Nigeria. So why do we allow such? So we have taken it, and we're contracting government also to the ISPS code. I mean to the SOLAS, which is from where the ISPS code is being drawn. Because we're contracting government, and a responsible government for that matter, even for our own interest, it is better we do it.
The ISPS code is fully complied with. Some of these issues that has no or dovetail into piracy will be avoided, i.e., we will be able to properly regulate the act of oil trading in Nigeria. And once we are able to do that, we start cutting down on some of these sharp practices. And compliance with ISPS code ensures that such things are achievable.
Up next is the news segment of Nimasa This Week, and this week we will be presenting you with 2 reports. Happy viewing.
The management of Nimasa, in continuation of a quest to enhance safety on Nigerian waterways, has commenced the distribution of safety equipment, mainly life jackets and vests, to operators of non-convention boats like power-driven small crafts and mechanically propelled watercrafts in the nation's coastal region. The flag-off of the Safety Equipment Distribution Initiative took place at the Besu Market Jetty and the Government Riverside Jetty, both in Warri South local government area of Delta State. Mrs. Yakede Akbobolokemi, the Director General of Nimasa, was represented at the flag-off ceremony by Mr. Chuks Mbemena, the agency's Director of Administration and Personnel Services, who informed the boat operators that the agency was fulfilling its corporate social responsibility to the coastal communities through the Safety Equipment Distribution Initiative. He urged the operators to ensure that they, as well as their passengers, wore the life jackets and vests at all times during their travels. He also warned the operators against nighttime travels as their vessels were not equipped for such. The leader of the boat operators at the Kwesu Market Jetty expressed his thanks on behalf of all the boat operators to Nimasa for the thoughtful gesture. He added that Nimasa was the first government agency to make such a donation to them unsolicited, even when they had requested for such aid from other agencies of government. At the government Riverside Jetty, one of the leaders of the boat operator there expressed concern about the activities of sea robbers and pirates, and he was assured by Mr. Chuksubemena that Nimasa had procured security platforms to patrol the creeks to forestall criminal activities and that the platforms will soon be deployed to the Warri area. A senior Nimasa official who was in the delegation, Hajia Lami Tumaka, the Deputy Director of Maritime Guard Command, informed the operators that the Safety Equipment Distribution Initiative was an ongoing one and would be extended to all coastal states and states with extensive navigable inland waterways.
The management of Nimasa has taken another giant stride in ensuring the safety of the marine environment in Nigeria. According to the Director of Marine Environment Management Department of Nimasa, Mrs. Juliana Gunwa, the agency has procured oil spill response equipment to mitigate against incidents of oil spill within Nigerian territorial waters.
I feel excited to confirm to you that the equipment, the oil spill response equipment, have been acquired by the agency, and of course the agency deems it necessary to acquire the oil spill boom system because it's one of the requirements of the earlier convention I mentioned, which is the OPRC, a convention of the IMO that has to do with the response to oil spill incidences. So of course it's a requirement of us Maritime Safety Administration to have in place stockpile of oil spill response equipment. So the boom system that was recently acquired is in compliance with the requirements of the International Maritime Organization.
Mrs. Susan Asagwara, the Deputy Director in the Marine Environmental Management Department, gave an insight into the capabilities of the newly acquired equipment.
We just use the boom to circle around the oil so it doesn't spread. So when it's circled, that's what the boom does. It just circles the oil, contain it in one place. Then we use a skimmer to now take the oil off and pipe it into a storage tank. So that the type of skimmer that we procure this time around, we take minimum water. Unlike others, I will just take maybe 90% water and oil. But this one now, we just skim almost from the top and just take maybe 3% water so that the oil can still be recovered.
Mrs. Gunwa also clarified the air on the relationship between Nimasa and the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, NOSDRA.
NOSDRA is the National Oil Spill Response and Detection Agency, and they are the lead agency on issues of oil spill and response. Nimasa is equally responsible for issues of oil spill. When you look at our mandate, which has to do with oil spill emanating from vessels, and our own mandate deals directly with offshore activities. So issues of spill as it affects that emanates from vessel directly are under the purview of Nimasa. But NOSDRA, I must say, they are expected to be the lead agency on issues of oil spill.
Nimasa, in keeping with her resolve to engage stakeholders in every aspect of its multifaceted mandate, recently held a stakeholders forum at the agency's resource center. Our field correspondent Amanda Akwan covered that event and presents her report here.
The Maritime Safety and Seafarer Standard Department of Nimasa recently organized a stakeholders forum to address issues of safety in the Nigerian maritime domain. The forum held at the Nimasa Resource Center in Kirikiri, Lagos. Maritime safety has been an issue of interest for some time now, and the existence of many wrecks in our waterways is testimony to the seriousness of the issue. With this in mind, Nimasa, as a responsible maritime administration, is therefore taking the bull by the horn by addressing the issue head-on with the relevant stakeholders in a no-holds-barred forum. The front tone of the forum was set by the Executive Director, Maritime Safety and Shipping Development, Captain Ezekiel Bala Agaba.
I see certificates issued by Nimasa. And when I pick it up, sometimes I look, either the certificate is issued from Nimasa or maybe not. A vessel that is maybe less than 300 gross tonnage might not supposed to carry a particular certificate. But when you go on board, you see the certificate there. So it means either the person who issued it does not understand what the certificate is all about, or is playing games. Supposedly, the vessel has not left the MPM fleet for maybe 1 month, but he has a certificate. Where did the surveyor pass to inspect the vessel? Only God knows. So those are the issues. It's an open secret. We are here for frank talk because we want to improve the system. That is not going to happen anymore. No certificate to be issued to any vessel if the vessel is not inspected. Before I see that, let me make one comment. We'll carry out a certificate verification. I just got the report. The report was submitted to me last week. And this verification is not conclusive because it's still ongoing.
After that rather frank opening remark by the Executive Director, it was a turn of the Head of Maritime Safety and Seafarer Standard at Nimasa, Engineer Vincent Udoye, to speak. In his prepared speech, he informed participants about the role of Nimasa in ensuring the safety of the marine domain, while he enumerated some of the challenges facing the agency in meeting this key objective.
It is pertinent to note that the challenge of ensuring optimum standards of safety, especially in our coastal and inland waterways, are enormous, and keeping our maritime domain free of substandard ships and unsafe shipping practices is a Herculean task. Ensuring that all vessels that trade within Nigeria and crewed by only competent and well-trained seafarers with genuine certificates is also a very daunting task. However, I want to assure you that the present administration of this agency is aware of all these challenges and have taken giant steps to confront them head-on. To facilitate the successful discharge of our multi-dimensional duties, we have embarked on a comprehensive program of human and material capacity development and structural repositioning of this agency. Notable in this regard is the recent engagement of a significant number of exclusive surveyors to enhance Nimasa's capacity to perform its flag state and port state responsibilities in the most effective and efficient manner.
The issue of dodgy certificates of competence that have flooded the maritime industry appears to be the biggest problem confronting safe shipping in Nigerian waters, as the incompetent quacks manning most vessels are responsible for most of the marine accidents incidented in Nigeria. We spoke exclusively with Engineer Udoye after the forum and asked him what his department aimed to achieve with the stakeholders forum that had just been held.
We felt that it was very, very necessary to inform the general public what we are doing in Nimasa there has been such a tremendous improvement in the activity of the Maritime Safety Department, and we felt that we need to convey these improvements to all the members of the stakeholders. And that is why we invited the stakeholders. People came in from the oil companies, from the shipping companies, from classification societies, and from the general public to come and listen to what Nimasa is doing with respect to safety. That is why we called the meeting. And at the same time, to get a feedback from them and hear from them and find out what they really want, what they expect us to do. It was a two-way thing, so that we will talk and they listen, and they will talk, we also listen. So that was why we invited them here.
Engineer Udoyi then went ahead to address the issue of forged certificates of competence being used by unscrupulous persons to work in the maritime sector.
Before you employ a Nigerian seaman or a Nigerian marine engineer or deck officer, why don't you contact Nimasa to find out if this person is carrying a genuine and authentic certificate? We can verify the certificate for you within 48 hours maximum, and then you get the results. There is no point saying that a lot of substandard seamen are there, whereas the agency, through the Department of Maritime Safety, we carry out certificate verification free of charge. We don't charge these ship owners to carry out these verifications for them.
Part of the mandate of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, Nimasa, is to ensure that operators and stakeholders in the maritime domain comply with various international security codes and laws. One of such codes is the International Ships and Port Facilities Securities Code, ISPS, by the International Maritime Organization, IMO. This week, we shall continue with our update on the guideline on the implementation and governance of the ISPS code in Nigeria. Every port facility must designate and appoint a Port Facility Security Officer, PFSO. A minimum of one alternate PFSO must be appointed to stand in for the substantive PFSO in the event of his absence or incapacitation. Port facilities reserve the right to request for a change of RSO should they find the services of the current RSO unsatisfactory. Registered security organizations are to pay to Nimasa processing and approval fees of 500,000 naira only for every port facility security plan evaluated by Nimasa. The port facility security plan shall be reviewed and approved by Nimasa to act on its behalf. There shall be no other approval authority for port facility security plans except Nimasa. We shall continue to update you on the ISPS code and the responsibilities of Nimasa as the designated authority in our subsequent episodes of the program. For more information, please visit www.nimasa.gov.ng.
This government is mainly interested in defending the masses. Nigerians know the president as commander-in-chief. They know him as the president. He sees himself as the chief servant of Nigerians. So whatever thing will affect Nigerians is ready to defend it. If you think is giving minimal support, then the person must be deceiving himself. He's ready to support and ensure that Nimasa accomplishes this effective implementation of the ISPS code.
Up next is the Maritime Cargo Report, which is simply a breakdown of cargoing ships expected to berth in ports within the Lagos Pilotage District this week. As always, the Maritime Cargo Report is brought to you courtesy of the Shipping Development Department of Nimasa.
Only one motor vessel is awaiting berth this week at the Lagos Pilotage District and is carrying bulk fertilizer. On the other hand, there are 8 motor tanker vessels awaiting berth at the Lagos Pilotage District. Out of these 8 vessels, 6 of them are conveying PMS or petrol. 1 is carrying base oil and 1 is laden with DPK or kerosene.
And that is our show for this week. As always, we hope we kept you educated and informed. Now, please don't forget, Nimasa This Week is an interactive show. We want to hear your comments, answer your questions, and even hear your criticisms. All you need to do is to send that email to the address currently showing on your screen. Now, I'm going to be here same time, same station next week. Until then, I'm wishing you smooth sailing and bon voyage.